All right, we are live. I am live. I shouldn't say we are live. It's just me. I am live streaming while I'm working on comics, and that's the plan today. So I plan on working on toning page 73 of my graphic novel, Not Death But Love: The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And so I'll be working on that. I've sent the link out to a few people just in case anybody else wants to hop in. If you're watching this and you're kind of interested, let me know. But other than that, I'm going to be just working on comics and rambling because it's been a while since I've done a live stream. And so I thought it would be kind of cool to do whilst working. Because I'm finally at a point on this page where I can live stream. And maybe we'll play a game of Risk. Who knows? Who am I? For anybody who's just tuning in, I'm Joshua Kemble. I've been an illustrator and graphic designer for over like 20 years now. I've been an art director for about 8 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on graphic designs or illustrations, I am working on graphic novels like Two Stories, which is my graphic novel about faith and mental illness that tries to destigmatize conversations about hard topics like depression and panic disorder. And Jacob's Apartment, which is a slice of life coming of age story about two young roommates, Jacob and Sarah, that are polar opposites. Jacob's father is diagnosed with cancer, and he starts questioning his belief system and his identity. And Sarah, meanwhile, is reeling from the breakup of a past relationship. And both of them are kind of questioning their identities and having these very deep dreams. Sarah dreams of drowning. Jacob constantly is dreaming of a stuffed animal that he had as a kid that was ripped apart by bullies. And as they find themselves questioning their identity and things like that, by the way, that's my mother-in-law's dog who's staying with us for a little bit that you'll see kind of perusing in the background, daintily kind of walking back there. But anyhow, as they're kind of questioning their identities and trying to find meaning in life, they both find themselves drawn together, and their dreams and reality start interweaving. So it's kind of like if you took Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind, put it in a blender with Ghost World, and you like that feel or vibe of story, you would probably like Jacob's Apartment. So those are my two books. I encourage you guys to both written and illustrated by me. So if you like these streams or you're new to these streams, I encourage you to check one of those books out. Let me know what you think. And I have a feeling that'll give you a better idea of what I'm about as an artist than me just talking on a live stream. I put a lot of time and effort into those books. It's probably about, if I combine the two books, it's almost like a decade worth of work. And so I'm very proud of those, and I stand by them, and I encourage you guys to check them out, especially if you've been on the fence watching these. It is a Saturday, and so I have cracked open a Golden Road Street Cart Lime and Salt Cerveza, which is actually pretty good. And then we're going to get into drawing. So this is the live stream where I kind of work on my art. I'll work on graphic novels and comics and stuff like that. And occasionally I will live stream a game or two of Risk. So let's get into it and look at the page. Okay, here's the page that I'm currently working on. I got to kind of reformat some of my desktop. I've been doing a lot of offline work the last week. Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. I may not actually be live streaming tomorrow because of Mother's Day, so I should say that ahead of time. Like, hey, if you're a mom out there, congratulations, and it's your day tomorrow. So I hope you have a good Mother's Day. Okay, all of that's out of the way. Mother's Day, hawking my wares. Oh, I should mention this too. You can give super chats if you want to highlight a specific comment or anything like that as the stream is going. And I also am taking channel memberships, which is an interesting way for you to kind of contribute a couple bucks. You get a couple nice little emojis that you are able to use in the comments section that only you will be able to use as a member. And I'm planning on adding more emojis. Currently, there's only one unique to my channel, but there's a couple like stars and stuff like that that happen as you kind of gain time and membership and stuff. So it's a way to distinguish yourself in the chats. But it's also a really nice way to support me and support my channel and my art and stuff like that. Okay, all of that's out of the way. Let's get into working on comics. So I will catch us up on where we're at in the script. So Elizabeth and Robert both have a house in Italy called Casa Guidi, right? Elizabeth Barrett Browning. This is a historical fiction book. It's mostly based off of the letters of Elizabeth Barrett Browning herself, and then obviously crafted into a story. And so we start off the story. We see that Elizabeth has lost her brother. Her brother has drowned at sea. And then she's also having a secret relationship with Robert Browning that her parents disagree with. And so, well, her father disagrees with. And so we find out that Elizabeth and Robert have chosen to elope despite her father's wishes. They elope, get married, and go stay at Casa Guidi, which is the house in Italy. And Elizabeth gets pregnant, and they have their kid Penn. And so all of this is happening as Elizabeth is. Once they've had Penn, they try to return back to England to kind of visit family again because they feel like her father should know. Oh, nice. Jim said, home body. If you are still on in an hour, I'll join on my way home right now. Awesome. So we might have a Jim Lujan joining us if I am still streaming. Awesome. That's cool to hear. Yeah. So they're basically on this they go to England to try to kind of rectify her relationship with her father, who's cut her off because of her marrying a man, Robert Browning, who he didn't agree with, the Barretts. So they kind of go back to England. Mr. Barrett is still refusing to contact her, pretend she doesn't exist, has no interest in meeting the child. And so they come back to Casa Guidi, and Elizabeth starts getting really interested. Oh, and also there's a side character that's introduced named Wilson, who's the maid, who's kind of Elizabeth's personal maid, who helps Robert and Elizabeth elope and sneak out and stuff like that, and also is helping them with the kid. Anyhow, Elizabeth grows an interest in seances and attends a seance with Robert at Mrs. Reimer's residence, who's a friend of theirs, kind of traveling in literary circles in London society, and also I believe lives in Italy. And so they go to Daniel Douglas' home, one of his seances. Robert is not impressed by the seance. He's a skeptic. He has a lot of questions. He feels like the guy's a charlatan. And Elizabeth is very intrigued by it. And so then we see a society party later where Robert and Mr. Home have kind of a brush up, where they're both kind of impolite to each other. Home sort of learns that Robert isn't really a fan. Robert's kind of trying to press Home to be able to kind of more skeptically view and analyze Mr. Home's approach, because he makes it clear to Home he doesn't think what the guy's doing is real. And Home acts in a very like kind of dismissive and rude way. So the tension's been building between Home and Robert, and now we're at the point where Elizabeth, months later, they've also met this young woman named Sophie Eckley, who will become very important later on. So now we're back at the home residence, or sorry, not the home residence, the Browning's residence, Casa Gaidi, and they have guests over, Mr. Home and Mrs. Reimer, who's a friend of theirs, a mutual friend of theirs. And Mr. Home is visiting as well. And this is where all the crap goes down. So we also have this little diversion where Robert has to move his skeleton. We find out that Robert has a human skeleton that he has purchased to basically draw from. And so Robert is sort of dancing around the house with that skeleton, and there's like a little bit of goofballness between Mrs. Browning and Robert. Okay, cool. I thought I froze for a second there, but I don't think I did. I think that might have just been my... Let me know, though, if you're listening and the audio is okay. So anyhow, so now we're at the point where Daniel Dungmo's home and Mrs. Reimer are visiting, and crap just goes down. Like, Robert is not pleased that Mr. Home is at his residence. Mr. Home makes a cutting remark about Robert Browning's latest book of poetry, which was not a big success at the time. It's now considered one of his most brilliant works, but at the time, it was a complete failure. And so, commercial failure. And so, Home takes a couple pot shots, like subtle pot shots about Mr. Browning's writing, and Mr. Browning loses it and says, "Hey, get out of my house," basically. So that's the scene we're in. Is Mr. Browning's kind of lost his temper, and at this point, it's a little bit before he's going to kick. It's a little bit before he's going to kick out Mr. Home. So that's kind of where we're at. We're going to tone this page and then potentially go to doing color. All right. So if you guys are new to this stream, like over here is where I'm going to be working on the art. That's my art file for page 73. Up here is my face. And right here is the camera that shows just, like some action of me using my cheap old Wacom tablet to kind of create the art. So we're going to get into it. I'm thinking we might do some commentary on some videos too, but we'll see how it goes. We might also end up playing a little bit of Risk, the game of Risk, a little bit later on, but we'll just kind of have to pace it out and see how things go. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the guides. I don't need to see those anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and call this drawing. And then we'll do a layer called tones. Tones. Okay, cool. And if I look a little crazy today, it's because I have been really unkempt all day. So my hair is just whatever it was when I woke up. So it's kind of all over the place. And yeah, that's how I'm rolling today. But I want you to know I'm aware of it. I look a little lunatic today. It's a Saturday and I'm chilling. So that's what that is. All right, so we're gonna start shading again. Like our light source on these last few pages has all been coming from these big windows that are in the Casa Gaidi room. And the nice thing about this, unlike a lot of the historical reference that we've had to draw in the past, there's like plenty of amazing references of how Casa Gaidi looked, and so this, should actually be pretty accurate to the actual Casa Gaidi. So yeah, so that's what we're going to tone. All right, let's get into it. And I'll talk a little bit about stuff I've been thinking about lately. One of the things that I've been thinking about lately is I'm constantly kind of thinking about like growth as a leader at my job, and also just as a person, as an artist, and in general. And one of the things that I've been thinking about recently is a personality flaw of mine that I'm going to be working on. And so I'm going to talk about that because why not? It's my live stream. So one of the things that I pride myself in a little bit is I tend to be really heavy on explaining things. And quite often it's because I usually assume that the people I'm talking to are going to be able to digest whatever information I've digested, and so it's kind of almost like a sign of respect for those people that, like, hey, let me just kind of explain something that I know, or that I'm thinking about, and then I'll get you on board with it because you'll think through it, and not that you're going to agree with me, but at least you'll be able to comprehend a little bit of what I'm thinking. And this can be a really big benefit because, I've taught college classes and stuff like that. And explanation is really key to, like, being an effective teacher. I think it is also to being an effective manager quite often. Being able to kind of boil down like a complicated idea in a way that, or even a simple idea in a way that's effective and gets translated well, is like pretty important, for like working with a creative team and stuff like that. But something I've realized in the last week is Jim Lujan said gristle again. I love it. That's a callback to our Artcasters, our last Artcasters. So something that I've been thinking about lately is one of my character flaws in regards to explanation is quite often I'll say something that could be said in like maybe like a word or two, and I'll go in depth with like explaining it, and it doesn't need explanation. And this can cause a couple impressions on people, especially people who don't know me well. It can give the impression that, first off, that I'm not confident about what I'm saying, because people associate like over explanation or like long-windedness with a lack of confidence quite often. And that's quite the contrary to what, I feel when I'm communicating in this way. But I do think quite often it is what comes across, because I'll often say something that could be said very simply, and sort of it takes me a long time to get there, and it can kind of project like an actual lack of knowledge about the thing. So it's kind of like that. I'm forgetting the effect that it's called. Corey talks about it a lot, but it's like there is this kind of psychological effect that people have when they know very little about a topic, where they'll have this insane confidence in a topic that they know nothing about. And I'm forgetting the term for it, but it's like an actual effect that's been observed in and I've definitely seen it bear out, where some of the most confident people you'll hear talk about art, you'll see their portfolio or their client list or something like that, and you're like, oh, they actually don't know anything about art, but they're talking about it really confidently. And you'll see this with all sorts of things, like people who talk super confidently about like buying stocks and like trading in the stock market. Quite often, if you look at like what they do with stocks, it's like they aren't necessarily great stock traders. In fact, they've lost a lot of money doing the thing they're doing that they're so confident about. It's kind of like what I'm talking about is like, wow, the dogs are really, especially my the dog that's staying with us likes to bark, and she's a little deaf, and so if she hears somebody, the other dogs bark, but she, because she's got like pretty bad hearing, she'll kind of hear the other dogs bark and then kind of get into it and not really know that what everybody was barking at has passed and everybody stopped barking because she's deaf. So she'll just kind of keep barking. But anyhow, it kind of reminds me of like there's a thing called the confidence trick, right? Which is like a scam where somebody basically through confidence and through building false confidence, they'll kind of scam somebody out of something. And that's usually what I associate with like overt confidence. Like when somebody's talking, like if I'm talking to like a scientist and I say, hey, how certain are you of this thing you're saying? Quite often they're going to be like, I'm about like 90%, 98% certain. Because they realize like there is no absolute certainty. You don't have 100% certainty in like anything. And to the common man, if they hear that and they compare that to somebody who knows nothing about science, but is talking about science and saying, hey, this is 100% certain, to the average listener, they're going to be listening to it and being like, we got this guy over here who's like 90%, right? And then we got this guy over here who's 100%. I don't know. The guy who's 100% sounds a lot more sure of himself. Anyhow, like, I feel like because of that, quite often I'll get into like nuance or explaining something to my own detriment. When there's a lot of topics that are better said very briefly and confidently, and just kind of with like even if you're 99% certain, play it up a bit and say you're 100%. Now, this doesn't mean when dealing with everyone. It's just something I've been thinking about lately, and it was really interesting to me that I can myself feel very confident in something I'm saying and yet project absolute unconfidence just by unconfidence is not a word, by the way. But I can project like an absolute lack of confidence just by the very act of sharing the knowledge that I have about whatever it is I'm talking about. So that's something I've been thinking about. It's an interesting thing, but it's something I think is very strange. I like to think of it as like the Donald Trump effect. If you look at like businessmen in New York, there's plenty of businessmen who are like 20,000 times richer than Donald Trump, very much more successful, ran much more successful businesses, have way less like questionable stuff in their past, have not gotten in trouble for like pyramid schemes and stuff like that. But to people who really like Trump, like they look at, Trump Tower and like this whole branding and then the absurd confidence that this guy presents himself with. And they think like this is the most successful businessman on the planet, even though that's not the case. It's an effect that I think comes across from just the pure, unadulterated confidence with which he speaks. I'm not saying I should be like that, but I'm just saying I could pick up a couple cues from that that might actually help in life a little bit, which is kind of interesting. Oh, nice. Jim said, when I get home, I'll log in and join you. I have a detailed list of all your character flaws that I've been working on for the last 11 years. I have them alphabetized. I like it. And I know that was riffing on the character flaw discussion. Don't worry. That's pretty good. Yeah, so Jim might be joining us with a comprehensive list on all the character flaws that I need to improve. So that's been something I've been thinking about, with comics too, where it's interesting to me, and I think it's something to be aware of. Like, it's something I'm aware of. It's not necessarily something I've entirely perfected or gotten incredibly better at. But something I'm aware of as an artist is one person's perspective does not equate to everyone's perspective. And I think we all kind of innately are aware of this as consumers of art. I think everyone I know has had at least one experience where they've read a book, maybe by somebody they know, and like there's a part they don't get, and they're like, "Huh, what's with this part?" And the person explains it, and you're like, "Well, that wasn't there at all," you know. I didn't see that at all in this work. Um, and so it was something where the intention of the artist, like the act of communication, uh, didn't effectively um, translate from the artist to the viewer. And sometimes that's the viewer. Like sometimes it's maybe like somebody who all they watch are historical documentaries, right? And then you show them a horror movie, and there's a bunch of stuff they're just going to be like, I don't know. Like if they've never seen a horror movie, they don't know some of the formula and the tropes and stuff like that. They might be like thrown for a loop and entirely miss the point um, of like suspense and horror, just in general as a genre. So that may not be your best viewer to like judge whether you've successfully communicated your idea, because intention comes into play. And sometimes there's people who just are not going to understand, regardless of how clear your intention is, because maybe they're just like their own personal genre preferences or something like that come into play. But there are times where you're like, you know, if you're crafting a part in a story that's supposed to make people sad, and every time you give it to somebody and they read it, they're like laughing during the part that they're supposed to be sad, and you know, they're crying at the parts that are supposed to be funny. That the you know, like maybe there's a translation issue there, from like your art to what you're intending, and maybe that works. Maybe your intention doesn't come into play when it comes to the execution in a positive way. Like maybe it's a great comedy. Maybe you made The Room. You know, you made this movie that's so bad everybody loves it. But anyhow, it's something I think about a lot when it comes to communication, because we're working in communication as artists. And so to me, it's like if I can improve my own communication, that in itself will improve my art, I think. Kind of reminds me of a lesson that I learned really early on with comics, and I have to kind of remind myself of, because I am a very like thorough and rambly person. Quite often, I will say something that could be said in like a sentence, and you know, it'll take me 5 paragraphs. Um, you know, so because of that, like quite often when I initially am writing a script, I'll get into like ancillary detail that doesn't need to be there. And then I kind of have to like trim it out of the final product. So an example would be, and sometimes I've used this for effect, like the end of Jacob's apartment has a bit of this, but it's for pacing, and it's to kind of slow things down for a really key moment, especially towards the end of the story. But there's times where I've, you know, usually, luckily, this hasn't shown up in my final work, but where I've gotten into the details that aren't necessary, like in my first attempt at a story. And so in that case, that's like if somebody walks to the door, opens the door, closes the door, leaves the room, walks somewhere, you don't have to show every single piece of action in that. Quite often, you could show somebody at the door and then somebody outside, and people will fill in the blanks. It's like a movie making thing too, where it's like you don't have to show every little like ancillary detail to show an action going through. You know, like imagine an action movie where every time somebody shoots a gun, you have to show them load it, and before that they have to clean it, and you see every single little minute action. That would slow down an action script, right? Quite often, it's just enough to show the gun and then the result, or the gun and the shot, or whatever it is. And so that's something I've learned kind of the hard way doing comics, where it's like you just save yourself a lot of work not including every little detail. And then there's times where, like I talk about Chris Ware here a lot, because he's one of my favorite cartoonists. And one of the things I do like about Chris Ware is that he will slow down for certain scenes and show you every little detail. He'll spend a page that shows a character like wiping their nose. And there's intention behind it, because like just that very action of how that character is wiping their nose says so much about who this character is, and what their average day is like, and it just translates so much information. You're given a lot of really important information from this like ancillary action, for the rest of the story to really have impact. But imagine if like the entire comic were that. One of my least favorite parts of a book is, and now I'm blanking out on the book name. There's a John Steinbeck book. It's like his most famous book, and I'm blanking out on his name, on the name of it. I've blanked out on it as if it were a bad memory, but it's John Steinbeck's most known book, about like the, oh my gosh, how am I blanking out on that? But anyhow, in this book, I remember reading it as a kid. Well, I guess not a kid, but I guess a kid, like a teenager, and just getting to this chapter where it's been an entire chapter talking about a turtle, like or a tortoise crossing a road, and got into like detail about ants that were crawling on the tortoise's foot as it slowly edged its way across the road. And it's been an entire chapter talking about this. Now, this book's considered a classic, but for me, just as a reader, it was just kind of pretentious and annoying to have to spend an entire chapter reading about a turtle crossing a road. It just felt like, you could have taken this out and the story would have been the same. Now, had the book been like a humor book, that could have been really funny, because it could have been like, I don't know, played up and been really intentionally pretentious or something. And that's me criticizing Steinbeck. And the fact that I'm not even remembering the name of the book is shame on me. It's his most well-known book. But the fact that I'm even bothering to criticize Steinbeck, who's a great writer, it's like, obviously it was my own opinion, but I felt like even great writers can kind of fall into that trap where you get so into your story, you start giving too much detail. And sometimes, I'm going to use Hitchcock here as an example. Sometimes it is best you show the knife and then you show the person's reaction, and you don't have to see what's happening between that. Like, people's imaginations will be more horrific and worse and more impactful and further your agenda as a writer, by leaving things to the imagination or being a little more subtle and underspoken about things. And so that kind of ties in a little bit to what I'm talking about too, where it's like, as a storyteller, I need to be cautious not to be giving people too much information where they don't need it, where it could be more subtle. So yeah, so that's something I've been thinking about. My sister-in-law is baking cookies and is not doing it very loudly, but is apologizing for it being loud, even though it's not. But it smells wonderful in the house because you have this like cookies baking, isn't there? Like, is there really a better smell in the world than like the smell of freshly baked cookies? So yeah, that's just something I've been thinking about. That's pretty interesting. But also, it makes me wonder, like how many people have to work on that? Like out of curiosity, you know, I kind of wonder how many people have to consciously try to not over explain something they know a lot about so that they come across as somebody who knows a lot about what they know a lot about. It's a weird conundrum, and I think it's like a gift. It's probably why, you know, um, there are some people who are just way better spokespeople for like quantum physics would be a good example. I think most quantum physicists aren't going to be able to boil down their ideas to like the common public. So then when you get somebody like a Neil deGrasse Tyson who can take like a really complicated idea, he's not like the most noted physicist on the planet, but he's incredibly talented at just taking a really complex idea and like breaking it down into a simple, easily explicable way of communicating. It you don't have a lot of people like Neil deGrasse Tyson out there in the sciences, because I think a lot of the people in the dirt kind of doing the work just could not be bothered by having to kind of take something they already know, they're already practicing, and have to like kind of reduce it down and explain it to like the normies, you know. But that's basically what I'm getting at. Not that I'm not doing quantum physics, but I'm just talking about with art. That would be a thing to kind of consider, that I should consider. All right, we're making progress on this page. And we got cookies baking. We got progress on the page. So I'm trying to kind of tone, keeping in mind that the light source is going to be roughly on the right. And this is just like a process that has to be done for this page. My hope is to kind of tone most of this page today, and we'll have to see how far we get. Because I honestly didn't finish penciling just the outlines and stuff, the contours. I didn't finish that until pretty much like this morning. So I've been thinking a little bit about that. I've been thinking a lot about, let's see here. I've been very stoked for my friend Gary. If you guys haven't seen Gary Hodges' Dinosaurs versus Marsbots, he just finished his latest issue of Dinosaurs versus Marsbots, which is going to be a long one. And I think he's doing a stream tomorrow. We got Ronnie Gunter in the chats. How's it going, Ronnie? Ronnie and Jason just celebrated their 100th episode. I believe it was 100, right? Of Comics de la Muerte. And that was pretty cool. Like a bunch of people did videos for them and stuff. And it was kind of neat to see Ronnie and Jason kind of watch those videos and honestly, just kind of awesome to see them hit that like benchmark, because it's a good show. And if you guys haven't yet, you should be subscribed to it. Comics de la Muerte on YouTube. It's pretty fun. But anyhow, so so Gary just finished this giant kind of marathon of working on this book, and meanwhile, I'm kind of mid-marathon working on my book. But it got me thinking about there's this weird thing that happens, or has happened to me every time I've finished a graphic novel, where there's like this kind of mix between relief, joy, and then just total disappointment in a weird way. And not disappointment like, oh, you're not happy with the product or whatever. I'm talking about like products you're really happy with, that you worked really hard on, and then you see them to finish. There is this like strange sadness that I find like overwhelms when you finish a big project as an artist. And I think it's partially because, and I don't know if this is for every artist. A lot of artists I know go through this. And I think it's partially because you spend at expense so much time working on these big projects. And while you're in them, it's kind of like you're mid race. So, like if you're running a race, you can't like midway through overly concern yourself with the finish line or overly concern yourself with the beginning. But you just kind of get in this state of just perpetually running. And there's going to be a point, like, especially if you're doing like a long race or something like that, where you're going to lose track of the finish line. Like you're just going to get in a zone where you're kind of in the present, doing the steps that you need to take to kind of move one step forward. And it can become kind of like meditative. And I think that happens a lot on big projects. Like the point I'm at on this book, it's not going to be extremely difficult for me to figure out, like, what do I need to work on tomorrow? Like, I kind of know every day when I get home, I have this thing that I have to do, and I'm at this certain point on it. It's all kind of mapped and ready and set. So I think whenever you finish a big project like that, there is this moment of like almost like just not knowing what to do with yourself, because you've gotten in the habit of knocking these things out. So I always find that to be really interesting, that it can be both fulfilling and slightly depressing to actually get something big accomplished. But I also feel like that might be part of why like every creative I know will try something really ambitious, and then once they're done with it, they're just on to the next really weird ambitious thing. Because it's like, I think we're all kind of, I don't know, like at our best when we're perpetually living in that moment of being in the race or whatever, where you're just kind of, there's like a zen like thing to, there's a zen like quality to just kind of working and like having something to work on that you've already pre-thought out, and just kind of doing the steps to like get there. There's something very strangely comforting about that. And then if you're an artist, that's like your favorite form of entertainment most of the time, is working on stuff like that. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to finish toning this guy. And then after that, we'll probably end up playing a trailer. And maybe we could go more down the determinism rabbit hole, or we could watch a funny debate. We could head back to Flat Earth World and watch a flat earther debate whilst we work. I'm just throwing options out there, so if you're watching in the chats, let me know. There was a debate that I haven't watched yet, where people are talking about Steven Crowder's video that leaked. But I don't know if I want to get heavy into politics on this stream too much. But I have to say, it is not a good video. I guess a bunch of people are not very happy with the way that I don't know if you guys are familiar with Steven Crowder. He's like that guy who does those like change my mind. He's the right leaning guy who does those change my mind debates on college campuses with like unsuspecting college students, and then he'll like own the college students and like feel really superior, and then people who agree with him will watch it and be like, man, he's amazing for owning those college students who didn't know there was going to be a debate today. But anyhow, there was like a video that leaked of him from his soon-to-be ex-wife, and did not paint his personal moral system, didn't add up quite to what he sort of painted his personal moral system to be. So anyhow, so there's like a debate about that I saw on Modern Day Debate that I've been meaning to watch. So that sounded pretty interesting. These are all things we could peruse whilst doing the live stream today. So you let me know. Till then.
Got me for my Mother's Day.
Oh, nice. Who's that from?
BTS.
Oh, nice. No, like who got it though for
May.
you? Oh, May. Oh, it's cute. May got my wife a really cute Mother's Day gift that's related to a Korean boy band that my wife is obsessed with.
This is cute. This is Jean Chan's.
This is really cute. Yeah, and what are you all doing for Mother's Day? I think that we're doing like a family thing tomorrow, a little get together, and that should be fun. Anyhow, of those things I mentioned, let me know if any of those sound interesting to kind of do commentary on. Dee Dee Willingham said BTS with a question mark. Yes, that's the. I think that's the. Is that the full name of the band, Mai? Yes. So, Dee Dee, do you say that with a question mark because you're familiar, or or were you just clarifying that that's what she had said? I'm kind of curious. Beyond the Scene? Is that what it stands for? My?
I think it stands for Bangtan Boys, but it could be. I don't know. I never figured out what it stands for.
She actually never figured out what it stood for, so perhaps it's Beyond the Scene.
Yeah, I think it's Bangtan Boys.
Okay, it's Bangtan Boys.
Is a Korean word.
Oh, also Bangtan Boys. Okay, so Dee Dee, you're familiar. Are you a fan? I guess Dee Dee Willingham is aware of BTS. All right, so we're doing the floor here, and then after the floor is fully worked out, I think we'll take a break and watch a trailer. Nice. My Dee Dee said she really likes them, actually.
Well, tell her she's my favorite now.
And Dee Dee, Mai said you're now her favorite. So you guys can geek out about that. I have no comment on BTS. No comment whatsoever. I'm glad my wife likes them. All right, so let's see here. And then Dee Dee said, okay, Dee Dee laughed and said, my, and then gave a smiley face. So you guys can bond on your BTS stuff. Okay, we're going to do the rest of this floor. How's it going, Dee Dee? How is life treating you? What are you working on? Dee Dee's usually working on some creative thing or another. Quite often really interesting, very creative projects. So it's always interesting to hear what Dee Dee is working on. All right, we're almost there with the shading of this floor for panel 1. And once the floor is shaded, we're going to take a break and watch a trailer. And we're going to make some more art together. We're going to make some awesome art afterwards. But I just have to finish up this floor. I don't know if I've told you guys this, but we have a fish tank that's full of fish. Very exciting. But we have one fish in there that's like a goldfish that has grown to like a quarter of the size of the tank. He is like this extremely chubby goldfish. Yeah, he's like a fancy goldfish. But he is like obsessed with food. He's just like, all he does all day is just kind of like finding little crumbs and stuff like that of his food. We feel like he's the reincarnation of our old pug, CK, who used to be the most food obsessed dog we've ever seen in our lives. He's like that, but like a goldfish. And he's just constantly moving around all happy and excited and eating 90% of the food that goes in that tank. Not an aggressive fish or anything like that. It's just he's, you know, like he could literally like breathe in all the fish in the tank. Just they'd all be gone. It's been pretty interesting. Nice. Dee Dee said, did a pet portrait this week. That's awesome. Streamed my usual Monday and Wednesday. That's awesome too. Okay, we're going to play our trailer and come back and rock more panels. So I'm planning on streaming for a decent time today, guys, because I need to finish the tones for this page. And also, I'm not going to have a lot of comicking time tomorrow because we have a lot of like Mother's Day stuff. Maya and I are also checking out a Presbyterian church because I've gotten kind of interested in potential Presbyterianism. Kind of over the Baptist thing. not over Baptism. Baptist as like philosophically, just the scene. And I have a feeling Presbyterianism might be more up my alley philosophically. But that'll be interesting to check out a presbyt locally. That's only interesting to people who might believe what I believe. Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, we'll talk more in a second. I'm going to play the trailer for... You know what? Let's play Wordzoid by Jim Lujan. I love this one.
Well, Peter, since I'm such a big music fan, I'm going to have to go with Karen Carpenter.
Oh,
Stu, I'm sorry. That's the incorrect answer. Trish, what you got for us?
I'm gonna go with Kim Gordon.
All right, let's check that answer. Kim Gordon. Do we have a Kim Gordon? Yes, and that means you're our new Wordzoid champion, Trish. Dale, tell Trish what she's won. Trish, you've won a copy of 2 stories, a memoir of faith and mental illness. Handwritten, hand-drawn, and handed to you by artist and writer Joshua Kemble. But wait, that's not all. You've also won a copy of Jacob's Apartment, the story of a doomed romance. What happens when you take Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and put it in a blender with Ghost World? You get Jacob's Apartment, written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. Trish, thank you for playing Wordzoid.
All right, great job, Trish.
I was told I was gonna get a lifetime supply of paper towels.
All right, we are back at it. Yeah, Dee Dee does her streams Mondays and Wednesdays. And again, always using really interesting materials and stuff like that. It's really, really fascinating stream. Unfortunately, most of the time, I think it happens when I'm at work. And usually it's like, I think that the one stream I'm usually able to catch while at work is Christopher Runciman, friend of Dee Dee's, which I highly recommend. We had Christopher on Artcasters this week, and that was pretty interesting. He talked about improvisation in comics and kind of made the case. And I guess I'm very easily convinced, but he made the case that that is a good way to go, like for description of all artists. Like all art has like an element of improvisation to it, and he made a really good case for it that I actually kind of believe, because like after all, like stories, you know, usually start out kind of improvised. You usually don't have a story structure before you have a story. You kind of have an idea of what you want to say, and then you improvise your way, whether like a jazz musician where, you know, they know their scales and stuff like that, and then they kind of improvise their way around a structure. It's kind of like that for storytelling. And I thought it was a really good case for like art being slightly improvisational, even if it's not quite as improvisational as like what Chris is doing, which is really fascinating, where he'll just take a prompt from the chats. Oh, nice. Dee Dee said, watched your Artcaster recording. It was way late for me. And then I guess there was some autocorrect stuff happening. Autocorrect's hilarious. I feel like there has to be cases out there. Have you guys thought about this? In our day and age, I'm sure somewhere there is like a divorce or something really heavy that was caused by autocorrect. You know, like maybe somebody lost a family member or something. Somebody close to you loses somebody really close to them, and you're responding. And autocorrect says something like super inappropriate, and you're like, that's not what I typed. It's like a Seinfeld episode or an episode of like Curb Your Enthusiasm. But like with autocorrect, I could totally see that playing out. Because half the humor of Curb Your Enthusiasm was like building situations over miscommunication. And Curb Your Enthusiasm is especially good at this, where it'll be like a character intending something, communicating it poorly, and then the misunderstanding and then the hubris of the pride of the character usually create these like shenanigans that just get worse and worse. So you watch this character kind of dig themselves a hole, but there's a little bit of empathy when you're watching it, because quite often it's like just a misunderstanding or misunderstood words. And I'm just like, somebody has to have mined that for a story. because that would be a really interesting, at least short story, you know, where you have a text message that leads, you know, the autocorrect of it leads to this massive misunderstanding that throws somebody's life into turmoil. Maybe it could be somebody accidentally insulting a mob boss or something when they were meaning to just say something nice to their friend. They didn't realize that they were, or like somebody getting involved in like a giant controversy without realizing it because they texted and the text came out in a weird way where it's like, I know what you guys are up to or something. And it's like, now the person has to run from, you know, whatever conspiracy it is because they unwittingly gave in to autocorrect. It has to have happened. If nobody's mined that yet, they should for story. That would be hilarious. Dee Dee said, suggest it to Christopher for one page. Yeah, that could be really funny. I could say the autocorrect that led to a divorce or something like that. Because I could see that. Like, that has to have been a bit in something where it's like, I don't know, it's somebody's anniversary or something like that. And they're meaning to say happy anniversary, but it like misspells. You'd have to kind of structure the way the text is mistranslated. But it could misspell it in a way that says something horrendous, like one of the things you can never take back kind of things. And then you watch this poor character have to clean up autocorrects, the autocorrection. Gary Hodges is here and said hello all. Hello, Gary Hodges, who has finished D versus M. How are you? Are you bagging and boarding? I'm guessing that Gary's going to be doing fulfillment. That's all. I'm guessing that's going to be happening pretty soon. You guys can pre-order Dinosaurs versus Marsbots by searching for Dinosaurs versus Marsbots on Etsy. Get your pre-orders in. Because I will tell you from experience, when Gary says like these things sell out and then he doesn't stock them for a while, he's not kidding. This isn't like a limited resources kind of a perceived. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking out on the term. But it's not a marketing thing where it's trying to create the perception of rarity, right? It's it literally is. If you want the latest Dinosaurs versus Marsbots, you should get your order in because it might go out of print very quickly. And you never know when it's going to come back. So there's that. Nice. Dee Dee said he is bagging the 2 I ordered. Mwahahaha. I hope he is bagging the 1 I ordered too. I didn't order 2 though. I feel bad. I should have ordered 2. I still have to get Mai to read Dinosaurs versus Marsbots. I think she'd really enjoy it because Mai was like a huge X-Files fan back in the day. And I do feel like there is, and I hope this doesn't come across as an insult, Gary, but there is a very like X-Files vibe to the story. And I guess why I would say that is like one of the things that made the X-Files really interesting. I mean, obviously subject matter is a little bit comparable, but I also think it's because X-Files was so character based around Mulder and Scully. And so you had all sorts of interesting, wacky, bizarre things happening in these stories, but it always kind of focused around these characters and the character growth of these two people. And I feel like your stories, Gary, are very character-based. Unlike X-Files, it's a new cast of characters quite often with a couple maybe recurring ones. But it's mostly going to be a new cast of characters per arc, per story arc. But you are going to get to know those characters. Gary said, my intention is to get all orders out Monday. I love it. That makes me excited. To quote Gary Hodges, I can't wait to get my hot little hands on a copy. Gary's the one person I know who uses that term. I'm sure that's a common saying, but it's funny. I associate it with Gary because Gary says that all the time, where he says, if you want to get your hot little hands on these things, I just imagine like somebody who gets really offended about the size of their hands hearing Gary say that and being like, my hands aren't little. Gary said, now I'm wondering where I picked that up. No, don't get self-conscious about it. Just keep with the hot little hands. That's awesome. That also is a great name for an indie band. Imagine an indie band called Hot Little Hands. It could, the band itself for their logo could have like tiny little thumbprints. Tiny ones. All right, so, but I am looking forward to getting those books. And Dee Dee, that's cool that you ordered yours as well, because they are so well written. And again, like one of the things I like about Gary's books is you're getting something quality, and it's an artisanal thing. So it's kind of the equivalent of, if you go to eat somewhere and the food is really good and the wait's a little long, but this food is like, this is going to be some good food. It's like that vibe where it's like you're going to get this artisanal thing handed to you on a platter. And when you're done, it's going to be like one of the better things you've eaten. And it's definitely going to be unique to, Gary's writing and storytelling and stuff like that. Google hot little hands, Dee Dee said. First use in Victorian fiction. Are you serious, Dee Dee? Like, Dee Dee's really good at finding very quick etymologies of things. You have to explain that. Short story called Self-Control by Mrs. Mary Jane Phillips in 1857. I wonder if Mrs. Mary Jane Phillips was a friend of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Wouldn't that be a funny coincidence? If like the people who coined and termed the catchphrase "hot little hands," if they were actually somehow involved in the Brownings, and we have this like weird just crossover of like what I'm working on with the etymologies that we're looking up. Dee Dee said, I was wondering that, Josh. Nice. And then Gary said, Josh, if so, you must work it into your book. Can't wait to get my hot little hands on that. I think that would be hilarious. Maybe I can work that into my book. Maybe, because I think there's a couple scenes that are like soirees. I already had to draw one that was at a painter's house from that era. And now I'm kind of curious if I can work a Gary Hodges into one of the scenes. Even if it's just like background dialogue, right? Like it's a background character at a party just saying, oh, I just could not wait to get my hot little hands on whatever. And it could be just a Gary Hodges looking gentleman, but in a, Victorian getup. Okay. We're gonna try to shade this next thing. Dee Dee, thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. And she said, work those hot little hands. I love it. Thank you for the contribution. That's cool. All right. But I do think that that's going to have to happen. I do like the idea of having little, little Easter eggs. I do sometimes include Easter eggs. I also realized I don't have any guests on this show. So why am I wearing headphones? That's like, headphones are kind of cool if you're talking to somebody on stream. But if you're not, it's just like sort of a lot of heat on your ears for no reason.
You were wearing those?
Yeah, I was just arbitrarily wearing my headphones just out of habit. Mai was chuckling and saying I am a creature of habit, which is true. I get very locked into routines for sure, which has been a benefit to my working on comics, because a lot of comics are very routine. As Gary can attest to, like the 50th time you've drawn a character, there's got to be something in your personality that can still find interest in drawing that character for the 50th time. And I will say from experience, even though I'm somebody who likes routine, there's definitely points in a comic, almost every comic I've worked on, where I'm just like, oh, I want to draw something else. Let me draw monsters. And I am a little envious of Gary's comic, because one of the things that quite often comes up when I'm sick of drawing slice of life stuff is like, I want to draw a dinosaur. Like, that's like 9 times out of 10 something that I would want to just do for fun. So to make a comic where you get to draw dinosaurs, very well played, Gary. Well played. Yeah, Gary was saying, yeah, you have to hope you're coming up with new things for them to do or faces for them to make. Yeah. Or maybe like your story continues and they get like a change of clothes. And Gary was saying that dinos are the most work, but pretty fun. Yeah, that's the thing. Now, if you did a comic where every panel was dinosaurs, I think it would just inevitably have the same effect. Where you'd just be like, after 100 pages of drawing dinosaurs, you might be like, I want to draw like a still life portrait of a flower pot. So my son's obsessed with this video game. He doesn't even have the system to play it on. But it's called Undertale. And there is a character in this video game that is hilarious. Again, I have not played it. I've just watched a bunch of the videos he likes to watch on it. And it's a character named Flowey that's like a omnipotent, super powerful, very dangerous flower. But it's like this, by all means, it just kind of appears as if it's like this cute little harmless flower. Gary Hodges said Undertale is a good game. Yeah, it looks like it's pretty unique. I think the thing, from what I gathered, it seems like the thing that's unique about it is there's characters that, like, if you're in a fight with them, they can actually, like, change your save points in the game. Like, they can actually get into the mechanics of your game menu and stuff like that, not just in the game, but they can like ruin your game, which I thought was really fascinating. That seemed like a really unique thing to that game. I don't know if I've experienced that gaming before. I don't know how I would respond to experiencing that for the first time in a game. Let's say you'd played a game for like a week and then you're fighting a boss battle and the boss takes hold of your game and screws up your save settings. That could be really frustrating. But apparently that's something that can happen in Undertale. Am I wrong, Gary? You I should have actually asked you about that, Gary, because you are a guy who was a professional game critic for quite a few years. Gary would look at people hitting on other people and he'd say how much game that person had. He was basically a red pillar, guys, like back in the day. Back in Gary's dating coach, game critic days. I'm here all night. Okay. Dee Dee said, I miss FF7. Oh, Final Fantasy 7. It is good. I will contend that Final Fantasy 1 is the best Final Fantasy. The first Final Fantasy, where all the misspellings because of the bad translations, where Cornelia was named Corneria. So great. It's just the best. But yes, Final Fantasy 7 is pretty epic. I've been wanting to do at some point in my life when I have free time. Maybe this is something I'll do when I'm like older. Here's the downside. Like a lot of people think of stuff they'll do when they retire, and they're like, like in my mind, a lot of that will associate with like video games where I'm like, man, if I ever retire, it would be fun to just do every Final Fantasy in a row. But then I realized if I ever retire, it's probably because my hands won't be functioning because I'm an artist. And so I probably won't be able to play video games either. Because I'm not going to stop working on comics or art voluntarily. Like that would have to be one of those decisions of like, grandpa's hands don't move anymore kind of thing. I gotta start filling my back catalog of like future retirement plans that have little to do with hand movement. What do you guys think about that? Anyhow, so you're gonna hear some pretty epic gaming sounds in the background because Ben is always gaming, which is pretty cool. And I have to say, there's a lot of really awesome soundtracks to the games he plays. But it's interesting. I don't know if you guys have ever had this moment where Dee Dee said, trust me, you will do more art after you retire than when you had to work. Probably. Like, as long as my hands are moving. All right. So we're kind of toning and shading. This is starting to get a little too gray, so I need to add some darker values here. Did you know the other day, this is just an interesting little side story regarding value. I was talking to somebody about art. I was having to critique their art, and the color palette they were using wasn't working. And part of why it wasn't working was that the values were too similar of the colors. So like they had color in the foreground of like type that was like the same value, even though it was a different hue, it was the same value on a field of the same value of color, even though it was a different color, it's similar value. And so it was creating this like banding effect, like which is not good generally in art. So I was talking to them about, it was a digital piece, and I was like, hey, just convert what you're doing to grayscale. When they did, it was just like the whole thing was a field of mid-gray. And I was like, well, there's your problem, And the person thought I was just inventing that. And I just thought that was interesting because I was like, man, do they like, it just made me wonder if art schools are doing the squint test anymore, where like generally like from my earliest drawing classes, what I can remember is, having like, especially when you're drawing something from life or you're drawing something from a picture or something like that, and it's starting to look like it doesn't have a lot of contrast between, foreground, middle ground, and background. Quite often it'd be like, well, squint and look at it. What do you see? And if you squint and all you're seeing is like a big field of gray, well, there you go. You just need more value contrast in your art, And then usually, like almost every drawing instructor I had would bring out the good old Ansel Adams, value test from when Ansel Adams used to do photography. The little bars that Ansel Adams, did I say back from when Ansel Adams used to do photography? I think Ansel Adams always did photography. But my point being, it's that value strip that Ansel Adams created to kind of check whether they'd made a successful photograph or not, to make sure they were ticking off all levels of value in an image so that there was interest and there was juxtaposition between foreground, middle ground, background. But I thought it was funny that somebody just thought I had invented that, like that trick of to see if color is successfully working to convert it to grayscale. If you have a big field of gray, then, maybe you need to add a little bit like some darker shades and some lighter shades to kind of make it feel a little more whole. I just thought it was funny. I don't know. It's like if I mention kerning to somebody and they're like, you're just making this up. And it's like, no, kerning is like a lettering thing. Speaking of kerning and making things up, I am not making this up. I believe we are going to be joined by Mr. Jim Lujan. Let's see here. Did it add you? Okay, there we go. How's it going, Jim?
I left my car on the freeway. There was too much traffic. I ran home just to catch this stream, and I did it. Hello. I left my list of your character flaws in the car.
Oh no.
Such a character.
So it was like that Everybody Hurts music video where you just like stopped in the middle of traffic and you're like looking around and you're like, you know what? Forget it. I'm leaving my car.
So you had mentioned, you said something about character flaws and blah, blah, blah. And then I typed in, yeah, I have a list of your character flaws, blah, 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 blah. And then you went on for like 20 minutes and you didn't see it. And I'm like, oh my God, this sounds like just like a burn. So that I had to go, the previous message was in reference to an earlier.
You had to give like a qualifier or warning, disclaimer.
Yeah. So,
like none of the opinions expressed by Jim Lujan 20 minutes ago applied to Jim Lujan today.
That's right.
I think you should just start using that as a comment on anything I do. Like just in like next Artcasters, just be like, by the way, I still have that list of character flaws.
Well,
but you can do it in like a mobster way where like it'd be a shame if that list got into somebody else's hands.
Well, speaking of, I emailed my list, and it's weird. Our lists are all different things.
Oh, I love it.
There's 100 character flaws that are.
You're like, you're like, I was trying to think of what to do for like my next great American novel, and then Maya and I compared lists of your flaws, and that will be the great American novel. It's so big. It's like War and Peace. Like
I remember number 76, which was obsessed with seals. That was
elephant seals.
elephant
Yes.
seals.
Yeah. I would not call that a character flaw. Thank you very much. I would call that a strength.
Which would you rather swim with safely if you could? Elephant seals or dolphins?
Safely, I would say
Safely.
elephant seals, but I have a very strange suspicion that kind of goes the other way in reality.
Yeah. That reminds me of a Mad Magazine, Sergio Aragone's little skit or little thing that he wrote. Was it Al Jaffe? No, it was Sergio. It was a guy that was a little boy in his crib with the teddy bear. And then he's like 4 years old in his room, and he's got teddy bear sheets and teddy bear pillows and teddy bear toys. And he's like, 12 years old. And he's building teddy bear little models or bears. He's all obsessed. And then it shows him as an adult. He's hiking, and there's a bear. And the next picture, he's running like this, the bear. And then the last frame is a grave with a little teddy bear on top of it.
That's so great. There's these I don't know why, but that reminds me of these books, and I'm gonna blank out on the illustrator and writer of these. They're great kids books. So if anyone has access to Google and is not currently drawing, then maybe check this out. But the books are called "This Is Not My Hat." Maybe Maya will remember. Maya, do you remember the artist? Oh, John Clayson. And he's done 2 of these books, but the whole premise, like the entire book, it's this fish who's just stoked about this hat he's wearing. And like he's just swimming through the sea, and he's like, and then you start, as he's having this like self-dialogue about how great this hat is, you start realizing he's stolen this hat from somebody, because he's like, he didn't really want that hat anyway. And by the time he realizes this hat's gone, like he's not going to do anything. Like it didn't really fit him anyway. And so he's like justifying this crime. You're watching this little fish, but the end panels are always hilarious because it's like the same premise. There's one with a bear and then another with like a fish. The bear one's with a squirrel that stole the hat. But it's like at the end, it's always like there's a confrontation where you have the giant fish meeting the little fish and just kind of glaring at him. And then the next panel's just the fish swimming off with his hat and the other fish is gone. It's like, it's such a good bit. And it's funny. It's incredibly hilarious to read those books. But
by the way, I can't type in the chat, but I see that you have chat. There's hundreds and hundreds of fans wishing me well and saying hello. I think your server's going to get shut down.
Yeah, honestly, I just had to re-up and pay like 20 times more for my internet access just because of your appearance, Jim.
I heard the dial-up sound right now.
Yeah. Honestly, the phones are ringing off the hook, Jim. I cannot contain the amount of people we're getting in this call center.
Question for you, Joshua.
Oh, yes. Jim, I wish I were sitting in a way where I could just be like, yes.
What is it worth it to you in cash or a money order to know everything that I know about Dinosaurs versus Marsbots? Endings, spoilers. Let's start the bidding at $15.
I do like that. I do kind of
going once. Go, and Gary, you're included. Gary, you need to bid too if you want me to keep this quiet. No,
that's true. That's true, Gary. Super chats are open. So, oh my gosh, that reminds me. Do you remember there was a Monty Python bit that was it was a game show called Blackmail.
Oh yes.
And it's like they would show this reel, and it's like this really boring footage of this guy just walking. And it goes for like hours, and like the money just keeps going up. Do you want us to keep showing the movie? And that,
for some reason, I don't know if this happens. Do they end up blackmailing the host at the end, and he like
yes
stops the show or something? Yeah.
Oh
my God, that's great.
But it's so great because like it just keeps going because like most of it's just like bad B-roll footage, and then finally it gets to the actual blackmail footage, and by that point it's like $1 million.
I like that. I love the Department of Arguments or whatever that is.
Oh yeah, I'd like to buy an argument.
He goes, we're having an argument right now. I was like, no, we're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. I'm off the clock or whatever.
Oh, it's so good.
So has Gary bidded? Dee Dee, you're welcome to bid too on this.
Yeah, that's true.
Going to the highest bidder, or including terrorist organizations. I'll even take money from them.
Hey, look, I haven't seen the final product, but I may have seen, like first and second draft of the script. So I might be able to participate in this leak, the biggest leak known to internet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hold on, is Gary? He doesn't even care, or does Gary just he just emotionally shut down?
I don't know. I think Gary's Gary's probably just like shaking back and forth, like he's gonna ruin the thing. Okay, I'm gonna start with one spoiler. Okay, you guys, there's some Mars bots and there's some dinosaurs.
Dang.
I'm just saying, like it's a series that has dinosaurs sometimes and Mars bots sometimes.
Joshua, you're gonna end up pulled into a van somewhere on the street. You better watch back.
True. I'm gonna get disappeared.
Okay, Gary has a comment. It says colon and a big circle. So I think that means that's the emoji for colon. He's calling me a butthole.
Yep.
I think that's what. And then
that's the notorious emoji for the devil's onion ring. Exactly.
The devil's, is that what it's called? And Dee Dee's going like this. La 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 la. She doesn't want to hear it. Okay. But well, I'd like to say the top 5 character flaws in Dinosaurs versus Mars bots.
Okay, let's go.
1, the dinosaurs, none of them wear sneakers.
True.
2, the Mars bots.
Although, should we reveal anything about dinosaurs and sneakers before the release? Because we might be giving something away there, Jim.
Well, can I at least say the Mars bots are sponsored by the Mars chocolate company? Yeah, he totally sold out on this one.
That's true. Like basically, they're all like eating Mars bars, and like for some reason, one of the Martians is like the green M&M.
So when I talk with Christopher Runciman, I always throw him a random question of the day, and I wondered if we could co-opt that from his show, and I can throw one out here for you and your audience today.
Let's do it. Let's do the random question of the day, ladies and gentlemen.
Question of the day, number 827. When you come home after a long day, is one of your first instincts, do you like to get into your PJs? Discuss PJ wear. Appropriate. That's
a good question.
Could be a robe. Could be a robe. Could be pajama bottoms. I'm a big pajama bottoms guy. So let's see. What's your feelings on this, Josh?
Okay, chat. You have to chime in.
Could be sweats. I mean, if your idea of pajama wear is sweats, I'm okay with that. But
yeah, I rock pajamas pretty much from the time of entering my house to the time of leaving it. I am about like a full-time pajama person. Sometimes I'll even let's say I get home, I'll change into like pajama bottoms or sweats. Sometimes sweats.
As well
as sweatpants.
I don't know if you could show what she wrote, but that's inappropriate.
Yeah.
That's pretty much.
She's actually using the Orange County term for bro, like the Orange County and Hawaiian term. So she's just talking about brothers.
And actually, Joshua, that's I don't know if you want to show her comment, but
no, that's true.
I have a spoiler. That is actually the first sentence in Gary's new D versus M.
Yeah, that's the big twist. Actually, that is the big twist of Dinosaurs versus Mars bots. And here's the thing: it's the dinosaurs. that you're gonna see. You're gonna see some dino. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So I was gonna make a dad joke, say the Brontosaurus, but no, I didn't. So just okay. So much like me, do you have a series of shirts in your drawer that are designated sleep shirts or comfy to go with your pajama? Like there's t-shirts I have that I don't wear with my pajama bottoms because they're like going outside of the house shirts.
Yeah.
And then I have a series of very soft cotton shirts that I wear. Those are usually the ones you see me on streams with are my sleep shirts. So
no, I can see that. Here's the thing. I usually will just rock whatever shirt I've been wearing all day with the pajama bottoms. Yeah. That's pretty much my way of rocking. But I will say, like, man, I will go one step further with the pajamas thing, and I'm curious if you do this too. If I get home and I've changed into pajama bottoms, which I do pretty much immediately after getting home, and then I have to say go to the grocery store or something like that, there has been quite a few times where I'm just like, you know what? And I go there in pajama bottoms because I'm a 40-year-old man, and what are they going to think? They'll be like, oh, what a weird dad. And it's like, yeah, that's right. I am.
Now, if you walk to the store in your pajama bottoms, you are unhoused, pretty much.
Yeah. That sounds a little dangerous.
You're going to get picked up. All right, not in a good way.
Which, by the way, is another spoiler of Dinosaurs versus Marsbots. There is a scene where somebody has to walk to a grocery store unhoused in pajama bottoms. It's very tense.
This won't be so much a spoiler because I think a lot of people expect this from the latest 1979 DVSM, but there is a scene. I don't want to give too specific, but there's a hallway, and there's this dinosaur that's putting his books away in a locker, and all of a sudden these three other dinosaurs walk by, and one of them goes bumps them, and then they go, "Watch where you're going, Nerdosaurus."
Nerdosaurus
adjusting his glasses, and he's like, "That's not funny, Flash," and he's like, "Look at the tail on this guy. Your horns coming in," and they're like, "Good one, Flash," "Good one, Flash," And
That's
he goes,
true.
"What are you gonna do about it, huh?" And then the little dinosaur is just like scared, and then they go away and they laugh, and they mess with Sarah, and then the other dinosaur, the new dinosaur at school, looks over and goes, "You really shouldn't let those kids treat you like that."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, what am I gonna do?" And then there's a song, and it's kind of dumb.
He's like, "Look, kid, you need to evolve."
Yeah, and it's kind of the song's called Evolution. Evolution. And it's just but that's Gary.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that he's gonna break out a song in his book.
And I will tell you guys, it's very meaningful. There's a lot of scenes where, like, the baby dinosaur's kind of disconnected from his family because he's dealing with so much stuff at school, at dino school.
Yeah.
And it's caused like a rift, and then there's a literal rift too, because like there's this volcanic eruption that like kills like half the school.
Yeah. Well, that's eruption disruption. That's like the second to the last song.
Yeah, it's a great number.
In the gym, all the kids sing it. Eruption disruption. It's like guitar solo of dinosaur. It's rad guitar solo, and it's pretty cool. It's kind of I don't know. It's a little bit dated, but
yeah. I feel like I feel like it's definitely among Gary's best work, but
yeah, and like
for Gary, it's really good. It's really good for Gary,
and he does bring up a good point that his musical numbers are much better when you read them.
Yeah.
So which is true because but
now I kind of want to see like a teen drama with dinosaurs in a high school.
Slope. This is going to be the jet skis, Victorian jet skis all over again.
It'll be like a chapter of that book where for no reason, it'll switch from that. Like it'll switch back and forth kind of like Two Stories does with two different timelines and styles. But this time it'll just be, so you're following the dino having his difficulties at school, learning how to evolve into a full-grown Carnosaurus.
That's one of the songs where one of the dinosaurs sing, "'Cause I'm a carnivore, I'm a carnivore, not a herbivore, cause you're a bore. You know.
And like you could have all the kind of growing pains of like teen years where, you know, like his like meat eating teeth are coming in and he's really embarrassed because everybody else has flat teeth and he has these sharp teeth and everybody's like, what's up to weeb with your sharp teeth? And he like doesn't realize, you know.
And you stick out of here, pencil neck. You telling the brother. and then the bad boy motorcycle riding dinosaur comes in. Who's that? He's the kid from the other wrong side of the tracks.
He's from over in the tar pits. And his name could be like La Brea or something. Like
he's from the tar pits. Look out.
He's like a saber-toothed tiger. That
the dinosaur hanging out with a woolly mammoth.
We got to make this happen, Jim. Have you ever thought about doing a dinosaur cartoon?
Oh my god! Yeah, I've done so many dinosaur cartoons. You're getting Gary. Are you writing this down, Gary? By the way,
yeah, that's true. I feel like this needs to be like a Gary Hodges, Jim Lujan, Joshua Kemble collaboration where we all make this happen. We could do it like a PBS special too.
How about this? How about we brainstorm and then Gary does all of the work?
I really like that idea. And I know Gary's a big fan of that. Like, because his favorite part of the process is like doing the manual labor of art. Like,
when you think about it, Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, I mean, we're the ones making the ladders and stuff. I mean,
we're the ones pointing at the roof. We're like the Medicis in it. You know, we're pointing at the roof and saying, like, you know, what would look great on this is a giant mural of every scene of the Bible. Like,
we're the guys that told Michelangelo, and hey, don't get any paint on the ceiling fan.
Hey, Michelangelo. Mike. What you doing, Mike?
What's your friggin' name? Michelangelo. Mine. But back to pajamas.
I love it. Yeah. So, what's your favorite kind of pajama? Because people are very particular about that.
I have quite a pair of pajamas that we stayed the night at my cousin's house, and my two cousins from up north were there, and they saw my pajamas. They go, "Those look like Hugh Hefner pants."
Nice.
They're gray with like black stripes or whatever on them, like that kind of a pattern. So they kind of do look like they should have a matching robe. And I used to have fishing pajamas that had like bass fish on them.
Oh, that sounds pretty rad. You want some?
They were great, but they just they had them for years and they just got wear and tear. They're gone. So these are the next generation of my pajamas are Hugh Hefner looking pajamas. So and then those question regarding you could go to the store if you wear a smoking jacket or something, you know. But I love
the idea of a smoking jacket. Like I don't have one. I have like I do have like a bathrobe I'll wear sometimes, but it's like I would love to get like a smoking jacket that literally has like my initials engraved on it, you know, just that kind of old school like.
By the way, Dee Dee said wrong side of the Dino tracks.
Nice. Nice. Well, that actually is the name of the soundtrack too, is Dino Tracks.
With an X, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And it's
because I mean Gary's, you know, from Generation X. He rolls that way. I don't know if you guys realize this, but Dinosaurs versus Marsbots, everything in it is extreme. Even Marsbots, really, the reason it's D versus M is Marsbots is spelled with a Z. You know.
Yes. Yeah. Two Z's.
Mm-hmm.
Two Z's. That's the name of Gary's company, actually. It's called Two Z's. So I want to get back to this pajama thing. Yes. We still don't have Gary's.
Yeah. We need to know your pajama preferences, sir.
What's your
in the chats?
Your P2, your pajama preference, please. And describe it slowly, please. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, live on this cast, Jim has asked about a description of a pee-pee.
Gary, well, if I had a nickel, Gary, why don't you just jump on this live cast and tell us about your pajamas? I don't want to hear about your book. I don't want to hear about your creative perspective. We want PJ talk here.
for sure.
Why don't you jump on, or anyone else? Please jump
Honestly,
on.
you could even riff on it and tell us your favorite like PJ Harvey track. You know,
I could give you my favorite PJ Harvey track.
nice.
I literally. Do you like PJ Harvey?
I do.
I love PJ Harvey. I'm a big PJ Harvey fan, and I'm a PJ Harvey fan in the last 10 years of her career. Like the
Nice.
first 10 years, all right. I love Down by the Down by the Water. Is that what it is?
I think so.
Anyways, that's a
Yeah.
great song. But I really like The Words That Maketh Murder. I love Let England Shake. That album's great. Every song on it. I love that album. So PJ Harvey. PJ Harvey. I'm a big PJ wearer.
Yeah.
So
It's just all about the PJs, really. PB&J is pretty good sandwich. You know?
Gary says, I've told Jim a dozen times, and in caps he writes, no, I will not tell you what I'm wearing. He's playing hard to get.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Your Honor, look how Mr. Hodges is dressed. He obviously was asking for it. That's always good. That's the best.
Yeah, that's a great defense.
That's
That's
a great.
what they call the
right?
lean
And then
on.
you look at the jurors and you go, "Am I right?"
Yeah. And then we're in such a corrupt society where everybody's like, hey, like, you gotta know, a man's gotta know what a man's PJs look like, you know?
That reminds me of Borat when he's talking to the feminists, and he tells one of them, "Come on, baby, why you get so upset like that, huh, darling?" Like, it's so bad. Come on.
Oh man.
Um,
Like I think that guy's pretty freaking hilarious. Yeah.
Joshua, how's your funny books coming?
They're coming okay, you know. I've been trying to think what can I do that Jim Davis didn't already do? And I keep coming up just totally blank on what can I do to comics that Jim Davis hasn't already done, you know?
I have a great idea.
I have a wristband that says what would WWJD, and it really just means what would Jim Davis do?
Yeah, what would Jim Davis do? So I have a great idea for your funny book.
Oh,
And
thank you.
That is, oh my gosh, you can use this if you want. What if you had your character, Mary Elizabeth Masterson? Is that her name?
Yeah.
What if you had
Exactly.
her? What if you had her turn to the camera and go, "I really hate Mondays"?
Yep, that's true.
And then, like, a funny face like that.
I have thought about, like, you know, because I didn't write the script, and there's some criticisms I have. You know, I feel like she should have like a favorite food, like a lasagna, you know, like that. She just it's a constant bit throughout the entire thing is like, oh, she wants lasagna again.
What about a catchphrase? Can you just sneak in a catchphrase?
Yeah, I really do need one where it's like, I hate to Barrett the Browning, or I don't know, you know, we'll figure it out.
How about this? She just looks at the camera and goes, "How now, Brown?"
Oh, that's a good point.
And then she has to make the face.
That's a
Like
good point.
that.
And then when she does that face, like you'll just have like a title just appear under her that says Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and it'll have, you know, a nice music sequence.
What if at the last? Okay, there's the big climactic scene at the end.
Yeah.
And then there's a knock on the door, and they go, "Who's that, Elizabeth Bear Browning? Who could it be?" And they open the door, and it's a big bear, and he goes, "Rah!"
No.
And he gets everybody. Because
And they're like, it looks like he couldn't bear it, Browning.
I
like that.
I think we got.
Yeah.
And then they fly off on their jet skis. They, you know.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
And this is why we should do it.
I think we should. I think this needs to happen. Oh, that's a good point. Gary said change the title to Grin and Barrett.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I mean, it would fit the Victorian theme, you know?
How about she rolls her sleeves up and goes, "Someone's getting ready to go to Brown Town."
Yeah, that's true.
Knock somebody out.
Or she's always baking, and it's like, oh, where's the food, Elizabeth? And she's like, it's Brownie.
She's in a tanning bed all the time. That's what
Where's
they call it.
Elizabeth? Oh, she's just in the
Her name's
tanning bed
Elizabeth
browning.
Barrett, and she's browning. There we've got our book right there.
Oh,
It's a winner. This
this has to happen.
Yes.
It has to
Oh
happen.
no! I see.
That's
Christopher
true.
Runciman has found us.
Christopher said, I don't know who is more handsome, the guest or the host. Well, we're both handsome artists, so basically make it an 80s sitcom. I like that.
Christopher, that's not fair because Josh is wearing a ton of makeup.
That's true. That is true. If I take the makeup off, you don't want to know. I mean, obviously,
I like Christopher says that Browning joke will leave a stain. That's terrible. That's terrible.
That was excellent. That was an excellent joke. How is the movie coming, Jim?
What?
How is your movie?
I know. I should be doing that right now. Really well. In fact, I animated a whole scene this morning. I went to the coffee shop, and this isn't the first rodeo I've done today. Paul Pate was doing a early morning. Well, he's on the East Coast, but Saturday morning cartoons, and I sent him a message when I was on there because I was on my way to the coffee shop.
Wait! You gotta explain to me because I didn't know Paul was doing something like that. Is Paul doing a YouTube thing?
Saturday mornings at like 6:00 Pacific time, 9:00 Eastern. He does a thing called Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, dude!
And he draws and says funny things and and talks about Browning and. No, but I sent him a note this morning and told, hey, I'm on my way to the coffee shop. So he's my pre-coffee shop, and you're the post-coffee shop. Although we were out and about today, but it's coming along really good. I finished animating a whole scene today. I had all of the elements, had all the voices ready to go, and all I did today was just animate everything, and it came along really, really good.
That's badass, man. So where are you at on it? Like roughly, I mean, still got quite a bit of work, right?
I have 3, what you could call scenes, animated, like they're done animated. Doing on the third one, the one that I finished today, I have to do some fine tuning on the editing, but the animation's all done, and then I have. Counting those 3 scenes, I have 7 actual scenes, drawn, and the artwork's 100% done. And out of those 7, I have voices for, not counting the 3 that are done, I probably have voices for 1. There's 1 I need to collect. The other 2 I need to collect a couple of voices for. But I also, funnily enough, have voices for other scenes that I don't have art for yet. Like I've collected, like my cousin Mike came over last night and recorded some voices. And when I say recorded some voices, we didn't hop into a booth or anything. He was sitting on the couch. I go, Mike, and I got my phone. I go, do this, say this.
Okay.
And,
so you guys weren't just like wiretapping people around you.
I actually was. He doesn't know he was recorded. So, and by the way, Josh, I might have a guest voice for Josh Kemble.
Oh, 100%.
And look at Gary. Gary's shaking in his boots. Oh, by the way, I have the audio I promised you. What if I replace you with Josh?
Yeah, that's true. It'd be a shame, Gary, if somebody. Yeah, it'd be a shame if somebody didn't get the voice to Jim, and then Jim suddenly, oops, I accidentally spilled all of the versus Jim online.
That's right. That's
be a shame.
Right. Yeah. So, but anyways, and then Frank's now he's going to send me some recordings, unsolicited recordings that I'm sending to the police. Frank.
Nice. You're like, Frank. So here's the thing I'd like you to say on my cartoon is just kind of okay.
Frank's heading over to Whataburger. Frank, if you send me a Whataburger, you can play whatever role you want in my film.
Honestly, Whataburger sounds amazing.
So good. I love Whataburger.
How is it going, by the way, Frank? I haven't heard from you in a bit, buddy. I hope you're doing good, Mr. Frank Salazar of Salazar Nation.
He's looking very stylish lately. I don't know if you've seen him, but he's got new glasses that make him look they're pretty GQ glasses.
Yeah,
And,
pretty smooth.
I think Frank is he's getting into his high fashion phase, I think, now. Pretty soon, if I see an earring, Frank, I'm just saying, if I see an earring,
And
you
it's
better
just one ear.
slow down. Yeah, a big diamond stud.
Yeah. There's a couple lip rings, like Frank's talking, and you're like, is that a tongue ring? Like, when did this happen?
Yeah.
You know.
And Chris Runciman's writing some weird stuff. I just realized that all of my friends are weird.
Oh, speaking of weird stuff, and
Yes.
awesome weird stuff, Dee Dee said the page with your characters that you and Christopher did was awesome. I agree. It was really cool to see.
Thank you. It
yeah.
came out really, really good. I'm really happy with the way it came out. I have to admit, Chris, I didn't even tell you this. As I was doing it, I was grumbling like the Hamburglar. I was going, comics. And there was some copy. About half of those characters were copy and pasted. The other half were drawn. So, but I will say this. Looking back, some of the ones I drew, it's hard to tell which ones are copy and pasted. Some of them you can kind of tell, but a couple of them that I hand drew, I was like, oh, they came out really good. So I was happy with it. I was pretty happy with it. It looks great.
I feel like it's a good tribute to the Luhan verse.
Thank you, and it was very, very, very nice of him to ask me to do that. So, but yeah, I have no desire to do comics.
Oh, cool. So, Jim, I got a favor to add. No, I'm just kidding. It's like suddenly everybody's like, hey, Jim, could you draw like 500 characters on one page for me just as a favor? You know. No, you've already drawn me in animation, man. I wouldn't be asking you for anything.
You're my ripped pastor in Pleasure Beast.
Yeah. And I owe you any time for that commercial. So you need voices or whatever, I'm in.
Yeah. I'll contact you. Don't worry, Gary's not being replaced. So
that's true.
You will not be replaced. So.
Oh no. Gary's gonna get a tiki torch and start protesting.
Yes, he's on his way. That's where he's going. He's going to the tiki hut to get his tiki torch. But yeah, thank you, Christopher.
That's awesome. For anybody curious what we're alluding to too, who maybe didn't watch Artcasters or whatever. So Christopher Runciman, the really brilliant cartoonist who's a friend of the show, does his own brilliant stream where he does improv comics based on just suggestions made in the chats. He did a comic featuring the Luhan verse, the full Luhan verse, which you can check out on Christopher's Instagram, and also just make sure you're watching his channel anyway. But it was really cool to see two worlds collide. I feel like that's a fun thing about our. I feel like our circle of artists online are kind of starting to create a bit of an MCU kind of vibe where, you know, there's a lot of like intertwining plot lines and yeah.
I agree. I totally agree. Speaking of worlds colliding, tomorrow night I'm going to be on Philip's live stream.
Nice, Philip Chandler. Yeah. Nice.
I don't know what time tomorrow night, but like probably Pacific, probably 7 or 8 or 6, one of those hours. Philip, if you're out there, let me know. But
like, hey, Philip, I couldn't make it to your show because I was driving there and I forgot to fill up. Oh,
I didn't fill up to it, you know. Hold that thought. I want to bring something to show you.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jim Luhan, the animator extraordinaire, friend of the show, personal friend.
Jim Luhan, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to show you that I am literate and I do read. Look at this, Josh.
Oh, you know what's funny? I finally remembered, just from you saying literate, I finally remembered the stupid Steinbeck thing I was trying to mention. Grapes of Wrath. That's the boring story that had the turtle for like an entire chapter where I was just like, I don't care. I don't like this book.
I like Grapes.
Is that the complete?
Yes. Wait, before you, Grapes of Wrath of Khan would be a great thing.
Grapes of Wrath of Khan would be good. Yeah.
Yes, this is the complete 8-ball.
Yeah, it's funny. My wife and sister are both like, Grapes of Wrath is awesome. What are you talking about? And I'm like, that chapter ruined it. I didn't want to read a chapter about a tortoise crossing a road. for an
Do you get
entire day.
demonetized if I show you this?
Probably not.
Okay, we get
His there's something about Daniel Klaus's style and his
Look at
ability
the
to draw just creepiness.
Look at the hair, how well it's drawn. Like,
Oh,
I
his
wanna do
inks.
that.
His
So
inks
good.
are insane. I
So
feel like
good.
there's a lot of crossover between, like, Klaus feels like he's working in the same, like, you guys have very similar aesthetics.
I can't believe this is all AI art. That is insane.
Yeah, it is kind of
Yeah,
crazy
no,
that
Dan-
Klaus for years has just come up with such interesting prompts to just type, you know, and
I see
he's
what
a
you
good
mean about
typist, you know.
the aesthetics of Dan Klaus, because before I knew who he was, I would see his art and say, that is something I perspire to. That is something I would like to do one day, to draw like as good as this guy. Yeah, I love his art style.
But it's funny because it's like you guys pick, like, I don't know, it feels like very, like, the closest thing I can think of an artist other than you working in kind of a Lujan verse-ish vibe. It's like you guys both pull from very similar realms.
Yeah, it's like we like every day, but
I could see like you
exaggerate.
drawing a gas station that he would draw. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Well,
but-
I think we live in the same universe. Like something as subtle as this. I really love the proportions on this guy. The guy driving. I just think, I don't know. To me, that's something maybe somebody would just zip by, but just the way he drew the hands, the shoulders, the expression on the face. I just love stuff like that. I like, obviously, because I'm not the most dynamic animator, and I don't mean that putting myself down. I just mean I'm very practical. But I like images that tell a story within just the image. You look at the image and it carries so much heavy weight. It gets you so much mileage just from the image. Yeah.
No, and you do that pretty effectively, especially with like your character designs and stuff too, where I think there's a few people I know who can draw somebody and you kind of know a ton about them before you even read the story. And you're really good at that. Like where, you know, you can kind of take a look at just the way you drew a character and it's like, okay, I know a lot about this guy. Like this guy probably bowls, you know, he probably, like you just get these ideas of like, which speaking of, I love the stuff you've been sharing on your YouTube streams too, like the Christopher Runciman voiceovers.
Oh yeah. Thank you. If
Yeah.
you take all the clips I've shown you, you can piece together the movie so far. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would encourage you guys to check it out because it's like it's kind of fun to see the process too. Because there are so many components involved in it that like you don't have to like fully consider with like a comic. You know, it's like in the comic, I'm not really having to worry about like the voice of the character actually speaking or anything, or like the soundtrack. You know,
am I allowed to compare my movie to Star Wars or at all? Because
I think, you know, it's a fair thing. I mean, I think, you know, like Gary often compares his work to the Godfather trilogy, so I don't
he
see why
often
we
compares
can't.
himself to God himself.
Yeah,
So
that's true. He often says like, you know, there's books that I like to think Dinosaurs versus Marsbots are like the Bible or the Quran. You know, it's an important book like that, but I'm not really, you know, cocky or anything. Just
Gary told me, he says, "Hey Lujan, you know what the difference between my books and the Bible is?" And I'm like, "Whoa, what, Gary?" He's all, "I have better characters." I'm like, "Whoa, Gary, that's a little bit full of yourself."
Yeah, I thought when he claimed that his came from a more authoritative source, that was a little high up there. But you know,
well, he is the authoritative source according to him. So yeah. I guess. But
I guess that's why he goes by the nickname of the Source. He's like, "Hey, it's me, the Source." Yeah. Anyhow, okay. Sorry, you were going somewhere, and I do.
Star Wars. Let's go to Star Wars. Okay.
Yes, Star Wars.
You asked me earlier about like where I'm at with the movie right now. Okay, if my movie was Star Wars, I have the opening Darth Vader, you know, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. I have the whole scene on the Tantive. I have that done. That's animated. And then I also today animated the scene where they land on Tatooine and the Jawas pick them up. And then I also have the artwork done for but I was gonna go to Toshi Station. I have that.
Power converters.
And then what's the next scene? I have that drawn. But I haven't done that yet, but I have it drawn. And then I have boy, I wish Gary was here right now because he could tell
The
me what's next.
cantina? Are you at the cantina yet?
No, it says in the Sand People, the next one.
Okay, the Sand People. Yeah.
Sand People, yeah. So I'm up to Sand, and then I'm up to where
Well, there's a few things about your father that I.
So you've done your Obi-Wan reveal. Got
yeah,
it.
so I'm about there right now.
Okay.
And then I have some
nice.
other. I have the voices for, aren't you a little short for Stormtrooper? I have that like those voices done, but I don't have that drawn yet. So that's where I'm at. If it's Star Wars,
Yeah,
and
so you're like
trying
a
to
good
brag.
solid like third in. So it's
I'm
not
not
too
trying to
bad.
brag, but I think the Full Fungus is going to make, respectively, more money than Star Wars made when on its first initial run.
Yeah.
If you adjust,
adjusting for inflation and I mean, I think including all the licensing deals you're lining up. Yeah, I think you're gonna.
I'm bold enough to say I think if you included the toys, marketing, overseas sales, and television rights, and combine all that money, including the box office that Star Wars has made up until 2022.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to make more than that at my first run in the theaters.
Yeah. That's a pretty reasonable.
I'm going to give it a month.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're having really humble expectations because I say this to artists all the time. Like, you want smaller expectations for your first work. You don't want to think that, your work's going to, exceed Star Wars, but meeting Star Wars, that's not that big of an I mean, I could see that happening for sure. I think that's a very reasonable expectation.
If I do make that much money, and I'm saying this publicly right now, if I do make that much money.
By the way, Jim Lujan, you guys got to look this up. He has a multi-million-dollar net worth according to the internet.
The internet does not lie. And if I do make that much money off of the Full Fungus, I publicly declare that I will donate to my local children's orphanage. I will donate $5,000.
That's so generous, Jim. Yeah, I think that is really generous.
Immediately, I will do that if I make that much money. So.
Yeah, I think that is I don't know. I wouldn't make promises like that, Jim, because if that comes true, that's a little bit of a pretty big commitment.
My mouth isn't writing checks that my ass can't cash.
Can't bitch
or cash.
I'm not writing checks my ass can't catch.
As my thought happened, I said, wow, this could come out really creepy. I was going to say, ask Mai what her pajama preferences are, but that'll get you punched if you ask another man's wife.
What are you talking about? What are you trying to say? No, yeah, Mai's pretty much in the same boat. Like, I think for pajamas, although she does not wear pajamas quite as often as I do around the house. It's interesting. For her, it's more like a bedtime thing. I don't see her lounging around the house in PJs as much as I do. Man, I'm just so lazy. I don't know.
Okay. Here's something.
Yeah, so Mai said that's because I enjoy being showered and clean. So, and I will, tacking onto that, I was curious about this with pajama bottoms.
Yes.
Do you have that pair that you just can't get rid of that are like, they have holes in them and stuff like that, and you just outwear them because they're just so comfortable?
My bass fishing pajamas were that pair, and I just had to say goodbye because
at some point they become unwearable. But those are pajamas that even when you throw them away, you're like, you will be missed.
I want to get Mai's
almost want like a bonfire effigy to those.
I would like to get Mai's opinion on this statement, Josh.
Okay,
and your opinion are daytime pajamas either they are both a sign of high success and a sign of depression?
So Jim was saying daytime pajamas can either be a sign of high success or deep depression. I like to think mine are
high success.
High success for sure. Yeah,
Sometimes there's nothing better than daytime pajamas.
I agree.
It's so cool. If you're having a great day and you're in your pajamas at the same time, it's pretty amazing.
I think here's my theory on life is I think as we age, we get more and more fashionable. Like I look at really, really old people. Like I'm talking like retirement home ages. And quite often those guys are awesome. They're wearing the coolest pants I've ever seen. They're bold too. They'll just be like, you know what? My pants are going to be plaid and freaking no belt. They're just plaid and they're stretchy and I love them. And I'm like, I look forward to the age where I can rock those plaid stretchy pants.
Well, personally, I find that old folks' homes pants are pretty cool, but it usually depends. So,
Nice.
Hey, by the way, that was horrible. By the way, I'm going to print out your chats because they're really good today.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's
on the chats.
Oh my goodness.
Book of it.
We
I'm
got
going to make a second book, which comes out in September. And
that is a book worth owning. People should if you haven't checked out 8-Ball and you like especially kind of twisted humor, you should definitely check out Daniel Klaus.
This book makes me want to learn how to read. That's how good it is.
It's so good I almost read a sentence.
And it's got this stuff over here where there's no words in it. And I like that. I can identify with it.
Yeah, there's
design. What is it about Dan Klaus' design that's just so amazingly cool? I don't know.
The thing I always envy with him too is he knows just the level of detail to add, and he never goes too far. It's just for balance. I think of him. I think Tomine too, who mentored under him. I feel is a good example of that too. It's
his stuff looks very Klaus-ish. Hey, is it Tomine or Tomine or Tomine or Tomine?
I always pronounced it Tomine, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
I like to pronounce it Tomanai.
I like to pronounce it Tomine,
The Joshua Kemble, how is it that your story is so the true story that you do? Tell us more about this.
So I like to, when it comes to my drawings, I like to take my time when I consider them. Have you guys ever watched an interview like that where somebody takes 20 years to say a sentence?
Oh yeah, totally.
Where it's wow, that's a eloquent question.
I watch one of my favorite people to watch the interview is Marlon Brando, and he does that. They'll say 1970s Marlon Brando. He'll be on a show, usually with an ascot, and they'll be well, usually your preparation is very deep. Did you prepare for this role as much? And I'll be like,
one can only reveal his own preparation for a role, if that's what you.
That was a good Brando. Also, just the idea of interviews and ascots is it's just it's such a wonderful visual picture of a whole era that I highly admire.
I'm gonna
There's
give you
something about a guy just rocking an ascot just with full, hipsterdom that yeah.
I cannot vouch for the character of these people, but I will let you know some of my favorite personalities, my favorite celebrities, and including as a child. They were Peter Sellers. As a kid, I was fascinated by Peter Sellers. Not just Inspector Clouseau, but some of the other stuff he's done. Marlon Brando is, as an adult, looking at him, he's just the craziest cuckoo cat. Speaking of Sammy Davis Jr., another one. Sammy Davis Jr. is amazingly fascinating and complex. He's an interesting dude. Who else?
Are we just talking about just interesting kind of ascot-y gentleman.
Or just interesting celebrity types. Like
like okay, this is one that I really admire, and it always throws people off because like I'm not an atheist or whatever. But Christopher Hitchens to me, is just he is such a character. If you watch him speak, it's just there's something about him that's just charming and very pompous, but like very much like he would rock an ascot. Like he's just a really interesting guy.
Well, speaking of Christopher Runciman's asking me to do Christopher Walken because I relentlessly torment him with that. I ask him on his show all the time. He'll say something. I go, well, what would Christopher Walken say about that brush? You know, and then he goes, and then he like does it, and then he does a great Christopher. I'm going to try to do Christopher Walken. I'm going to try and do Christopher Walken. I can't do it.
He's a hard one to do because it's like all about the pausing and the cadence.
It sounds like, although I can write for Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Like you would say that.
And your grandfather kept it in the only place. I can't do it either. Yeah.
Who's gonna know? Well, that's up for debate.
You know, he would say things like that, but I can't do them, but I could write for him.
I love that.
I have Walken envy.
Yeah, that's true. Well, honestly, Christopher can do voices pretty well. I think it's pretty brilliant to have him doing cartoons because it's like, oh man, he can do Freeman.
Josh, you know Geo Braun, right? You know Geo.
I don't. Who's Geo Braun?
I don't know Geo Braun. I thought he was in our circle of life. Oh, I thought you knew Geo. He's a local guy. Anyways, okay. I want him to meet Chris because they both do. They're very simpatico. They would get along, but they both do Christopher Walken and Morgan Freeman.
Oh,
I
nice.
have two friends. I have Stereo Walken, Stereo Freeman.
Who's that? Oh yeah, my wife was bringing up Cary Grant's another classic ascot wearing.
He's an interesting dude too.
One of my favorite things, like there was have you seen Some Like It Hot, like the classic like comedy or whatever, where it's like Tony Curtis? Like,
yes.
So originally the director had cast Cary Grant, and Cary Grant kind of bailed on the film and kind of screwed over the director. So the director rewrote his script to just trash Cary Grant. Like, so prior to that, like there's this whole bit where Tony Curtis is playing a character that is Cary Grant, and that was written into the script out of just sheer anger and vengeance about Cary Grant kind of screwing over the production. So there's a point where Tony Curtis is like, nobody talks like this, and it's like it's literally Cary Grant, but that's a funny thing, like one of those Cary Grant things.
There's a stand-up comedian that I forgot who was it that was talking about Tony Curtis is always Tony Curtis in every movie, and Clinty's like, "Hey Spartacus, where you going over there?" You know, it's like it's Spartacus with a New York accent. Kurt Russell, there's an interesting dude too.
Yeah,
very intense, so intense.
I think that's why like Tarantino's really good at like picking actors that are just like, even if they're not great actors, there's just something about them that's like a character.
Yeah.
He's really good at that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, hot take here. I think Quentin Tarantino's pretty good at casting his movies. I don't know. I mean, it's a crazy take, but
yeah,
I don't know why I've been like resorting to just like the strange mob boss voice every 5 seconds.
Oh, because it's so fun to do.
It is fun to do.
It'd be a shame if you were to do that voice for the wrong person, Joshua. Just saying. It'd be a shame if something would have happened to that nice little Huffy you got parked in the driveway there. Just saying. Just saying that they don't make bike locks like they used to.
He's a growing dinosaur. Leave him alone.
It'd be a shame if there's something that happened to that nice little hot seat you got in the backyard there.
We're gonna have to turn this dino into fossil fuel.
Do you remember the hot seat? Those little things that you'd sit on as a kid?
Oh yeah,
Big wheels. They were called big wheels.
that's
too.
right. I had Thundercats big wheel as a kid, and you can look it up online. Wait, not Thundercats, sorry, Voltron. So it was like Lion-O, and then like the front of the mouth of the lion would open, and it would be Voltron's face, and it had like little plastic sidings on it and stuff. I rocked that quite a lot of my childhood, and I looked it up just to be like, am I remembering this wrong? And it's like, yeah, if you look up Voltron big wheel online, you'll see exactly what I was talking
While
about.
you was riding on your Voltron big wheel, I was in court with my second paternity suit, Joshua. That's right. I was neglecting child support on my second illegitimate kid. Yeah.
Voltron, by the time Voltron came out, I think I was already in high school.
Oh yeah.
But I still was riding a big wheel.
Yeah,
to-
that's true.
to high
You're like,
school.
I have that same Voltron big wheel. It's just,
Here's another thought, Josh. You know,
what's that?
you see grown men all the time now riding scooters, going to work or whatever, those electric scooters.
That's
You know,
true.
when you stand up on, in LA, all the time I see that. Like
Yeah.
hipster, you have man bags and they're going to, and I always think to myself, why did the scooter survive, but yet the big wheel didn't?
Yeah, I want to see grown men riding big wheels to work.
Like a giant big wheel.
What you need is like giant big wheels, but then there's like big wheel gangs.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like
they all
somebody pulls up on a big wheel, they're like,
they
"What's
all
going
pull
on?"
up like this, Josh. They go,
Yeah.
they all slide together.
It's like the lowrider bike, but just like a big wheel.
Yeah.
Hey,
Needs
Holmes,
to happen.
why you looking at my big wheel like that, Holmes?
They have competitions about how big the wheels can get on their big wheels. There's like custom big wheel shops.
One guy has one that's like at the 1800s bikes, those giant tires. He's dang, look at that big wheel go. He's got
There's
cars
like a shady garage where they like trick them out. They're like, man, your big wheel is gonna be so big. Like,
Yeah, when I got out of lockup, Leo really changed my life. I'm working on big wheels 24/7 now.
Oh, it kills me. Oh, that's too good, dude.
There's too many ideas. Josh, you have too many.
I know.
They're
It's
all
too
gold,
fun.
every one of them.
This is one of the things that unites Jim and I in friendship, is we
If
can
we-
riff on shit like this for like months.
Yeah, if we worked in a bullpen together for like a magazine or something, nothing would get done.
No, we'd crack people up, but I don't think we'd ever get.
Yeah,
a
it'd be
sketch
like
written.
it'd be like the 11th hour. We're like,
Yeah.
why did you guys work till 5 a.m. that morning? It's like, well, because we did nothing the entire week. And why is there a big wheel on the cover of this magazine?
Because he's saving lives.
The big wheel needs to happen. Actually, that would be funny in like the Victorian script, is after they get off the jet skis, there's like a big wheel race.
You should have somebody in the background and just your frame riding a big wheel down.
That's true.
A little
true.
kid. By the way, big wheel. Do you remember how fun that was riding big wheels when you were a kid?
It was, but like thinking about it, it's just like, logistically they weren't. I don't think that's an easy thing to move. Just the positioning of it, you're kind of leaning back. You're sort of.
Big wheels are a great idea to have a child be as low to the ground as possible.
Yeah, that's true.
Out of the car's view is perfect.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, like that
Nothing
could just
go wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And then here's
go ahead. Are we both go aheading?
Well, I was going to say something super intelligent, so you better go first.
Okay. Well, my only thing was I gotta put on a trailer so that I can break for like 2 seconds, but I wanted to hear what you had to say first. So.
I was just going to say poop. Poop.
That's right. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And with that fine thought, let's leave you to brew on that. So I'm gonna disappear for a second. Jim, do you want to pitch your stuff while I disappear for like a minute, or would you prefer if I just play a trailer?
I want to see a trailer. In fact, can you play one of the trailers from somebody giving a testimony for one of your books? Either
All right.
Chris, Phil,
Yeah.
whoever.
Let's have a testify.
Who haven't you played in a while?
This one. Here it is.
Hi, my name's Chris and I like comics. I want to talk about this comic for a second here. I just got this in. I ordered it direct from my local comic shop through Diamond Distributing. It's Joshua Kemble's Jacob's Apartment. I really enjoyed this book. There's all kinds of comics out there, let's be honest. There's fun comics, there's superhero comics, there's young adult comics, there's adventure comics for kids. There's so many different things under the planet. But there's also an entire subgenre of alternative books. Real life, real world depictions in comic book form. Situations that happen to each and every one of us. And this is a fine example of that. If you get a chance, order this book from your local comic shop. You won't be disappointed. I can't sing its praises high enough. Okay? Check it out. Jacob's Apartment by Joshua Kemble.
Hi, I'm Christopher Runciman, and I don't care if you buy Josh's book or not.
I was just gonna leave it to Jim, and he's just gonna run the whole thing. So, question regarding pajamas and all that. That's like a get home. Do you have like get home rituals?
I do. Yes, that's a good one.
Okay.
That's a good one. Okay. If it's not trash day and I'm not bringing the cans back in, that's one. But on a day where we're not going anywhere or continuing the day, I go to the pajama drawer and I do the secret code and I open it and I get my comfy pajamas and I put my sleep shirt on and then we'll have like a dinner and then sometimes we like to have dinner and then like not be completely lazy. Like sometimes we'll, physical activity or something or go somewhere or do something. But on the days where you come home, especially when it's like a cold day, California cold day, in the low 70s.
Yeah, I mean, and like honestly, you guys in like Canada and Idaho, you have no idea what cold is till you're in California.
When you experience that wind chill factor of 73,
yeah,
you'll know.
Yeah,
but yeah, I honestly will get in pajamas. Like that's like my comfort, and we got the cats hanging out here, and
nice.
and
it's like a Broadway musical when you get home.
No cats. I mean, like I was being like the Rat Pack. The cats coming by. Mickey and
I got
Desi.
all these cool cats that stop by. You get home and you're like, you and Leanne just sit back going.
There's a bunch of hipsters here from the 50s.
You're like telling her about your day at work. She's like,
the guy's got a bongo.
Deep, Jim, deep. I dig.
Ooh. Yeah.
Jim gets home. He's like, dig this. By the way, sorry for
you're gonna bring up the jazz.
Well, what happened to that kind of wonderful terminology of somebody starting a story with "dig this"? Like, that's a great lead into a story. Like, I want to hear that story now.
I have been known lately to do jazz music.
I heard some of it. It was kind of incredible.
It is so fun to do because I can do off chords, and it's like, yeah.
You're like, yeah.
I get it, but I'm trying not to do like disrespectful jazz, but it has like a feel to it, but it's just really, I don't know what I'm doing, so it's what makes it.
I liked it though. I felt like it was pretty funny and like very pretentious, like in a kind of intentional way. Yeah, but also like it was like following some root, like rhythms where you like find a groove, you know.
And some of
So-
it's like for a minute, like it sounds real for a minute. Like if you take a little small portion of any of it, you're like, yeah. And then you put it all together, you're like, oh no.
That's true. I kind of dug that though, because like there's parts of it that sound like really accomplished, and then parts of it that sound like banging around on a Fisher Price piano.
Yes.
And I was like, that's amazing. I love it.
Oh, Philip Chandler has joined to monitor this chat to make sure I am appropriate for
That's right.
tomorrow's talk.
Basically, Philip came in and was like, no more talk of cans and trash, okay? Which, by the way, I'm going to try to use
Philip
for the title. I'm going to say Jimmy or Jimmy the Lutz talks cans and trash.
Philip basically came in and said, "Oh, Mr. Spicoli, so you've ordered pizza for everyone."
That character of like the disgruntled, pretentious teacher is a pretty classic one.
Well, speaking of characters, in my opinion, I think that Jeff Spicoli, Sean Penn's Jeff Spicoli, is one of my top 10 favorite characters of all time in film.
Spicoli's great, dude.
Every scene he's in is so heavy and so weighted with comedy. It's so well done.
And also, I mean, everybody knew Spicoli. Like, that's the thing that was interesting about that character, too. But it was really like, it wasn't a trope, but it still was familiar enough to where you're like, yeah, I knew that guy. But it wasn't like, I don't know. It was like, yeah, it's hard to explain.
That character is, that doing the California dude is so hard to do because it's such a fine line between doing a great job that Sean Penn did, and then doing the California. It's like, what are you talking about? Like it's, or doing my favorite California one was California accent is Michael Scott from The Office when he would try to do it. Hey, dude, you're harshing my mellow.
It's like the it's a fine line between being authentic and then or feeling like Steve Buscemi showing up with a skateboard and being like, what's up, cool kids, you know? Like,
no, but I think Sean Penn should have won an Oscar for Spicoli. I think he did it so good.
I also think this. Also, Jim, I think we need to talk about our desire for Kevin Cross to take up rollerblading.
That is so funny. That dream, I almost want to write down that dream. It was fun. Okay, so if those of you that don't know, I had a dream. I had a dream a few weeks ago that I kind of made me. I don't know if I was laughing out loud, but I know I woke up kind of giggling to myself. But in the dream, it wasn't over the top ridiculous. It was very, very subtle. But it was Kevin Cross told it was in Portland, and we were like reuniting, like, hey Kevin, I haven't seen you in a while. How you doing? And he's like, yeah, I'm good. And I asked him in the dream, hey, how's the skateboarding going? You know, and he goes, yeah, like no, like I don't do that anymore. And I was like what? And he's like, he pointed to his feet, and he had skates, like not blades. They were like the 1970s, like leather, roller skates, like he had skates on, and he's like, and he's telling
with the big old wheels.
And he was telling me like, this is my thing now. Like, and I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, like this is it, man. This is the thing. And somehow I knew he had a boombox. I didn't see it in the dream, but I knew he had a boombox. So in my dream, I think what was funny to me was I didn't know if Kevin was playing like rap and he was doing like roll bounce type roller skating, or if it was a disco, or if it was like, or what it was, if it was modern music. But I just thought, oh my God, he's getting into like dance skating somehow. And then it ended abruptly. That was it. Like there was no point to it, but.
And you're like, I want to know more. I want to talk to Dream Kevin again. I need to mine this for content. Like I've
been studying lucid dreaming for about a month now. And so I texted him next morning. I told him the dream, and he laughed. And I think he might get into it. I think he might start that.
That's hilarious. So Jim told me this, and I just instantly was thinking the antithesis of a skateboarder. For forever, there has always been rivalry of skateboarders that hate rollerblading. Like, I mean, and I'm not talking like hate mildly. I'm talking like there's t-shirts making fun of rollerbladers. There's like a whole culture. There's jokes that I can't say or I'd get canceled on the internet about rollerbladers. And it's like, so I just thought, man, I mean, it would be funny if it was like old school skates, but it would be hilarious if you, it wouldn't even have to be Kevin. It would just be, you have a character that behaves and uses all the terminology of a skateboarder
Right now,
but they're a rollerblader. Like,
I'm picturing right now in his garage with one foot up like this, with rollerblades on, with his jaw open, watching this. It's Corey Kerr. Like,
he's like, son of a.
Corey, what's wrong? Nothing. Nothing's wrong.
Even the idea of Corey
He turns around and rips
rollerblading.
the Piper poster down.
Not again.
All right, with
Crumble.
I shall destroy you. And then Dr. Doom mask pulls down, and then the credits roll.
Yeah, that's true. And then the secret is revealed that Corey Kerr, for the entire time, has secretly been MF Doom the entire time.
Yes. So I will go now because
Awesome. Thank
my
you.
Mac battery will sleep now unless I
Yeah.
plug it into a power outlet. So
And he's talking about his Mac battery, not his Macintosh, like his Mac battery. You know what I'm saying?
Mac battery. Hey baby, not now. My Mac battery is running low.
I got a lot of stock in Mac. That's all I gotta say.
Well, I'm gonna go put my pajamas on and I'm gonna finish watching your show. And hey,
I love it.
Philip says tomorrow he's putting together a little announcement for tomorrow.
Oh,
I'll post it
awesome.
later.
That's exciting. And Jim, thank you for hopping on. I just realized it's like 7:00 and I have not had dinner, so I'm going to close the show. But I appreciate Jim, you coming on and hanging out and riffing with you. It's always fun.
Absolutely. And in honor of RIP Jerry Springer, can you end this show after I log off? Can you end the show?
Oh,
with
yeah.
A Josh Kemble moment, a final thought?
I love it. I love it.
Okay. All right, Josh. Blessings to you. I'll talk to you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Lujan, the amazing Jim Lujan. I didn't watch enough Jerry Springer to do this correctly, so I'll just do it like a newscast. Jim Lujan, amazing animator, and there you have it. His Mac battery needed a charge. And doesn't that say so much about the charge we all need for our Mac batteries? Think about that, ponder it, and we'll see you next time on the Joshua Kemble stream. I'm going to go eat food. I'll be back. I'll probably live stream in a little bit. That was a really fun episode. Thank you to everybody in the chats. It's been fun. It's so lively today, and there's just a lot of hilarious jokes and stuff that we barely were able to get to in the chats. But we got some progress done. So real quick before, I'm going to go ahead and show you what we got done. So we got about halfway through the page. So cue the halfway there living in a prayer song. We're halfway there, guys. And we will finish this today. So I will probably be live streaming in about an hour from now. So if you haven't yet, especially if you watched this and you enjoyed it, first off, like, that was Jim Lujan. If you thought he was funny on here, you're going to love Jim's live streams, his animations, and the Lujan verse itself, which is like the epitome of funny. Friend of mine, I feel honored to know he's actually a comedic genius, in my opinion. And so you guys should be subscribed to him, or you're missing out on something really special. And other than that, check out the chats too. A lot of talented artists. Dee thanks again for the super chat earlier. And also Dee Willingham does a great stream. Christopher Runciman does a great stream. Philip Chandler does a great stream. Frank Salazar does a great stream. Gary Hodges has D versus M coming out. Just a lot of talented artists in our circle, and I encourage you to check everybody out. Make sure you subscribe to all of them. But the last thing I'll do, because I always forget to do this, I actually forgot to do it at the top, and so I'm going to do it now, is like everyone who's watching, before you end this, hit that like button. Takes 2 seconds. Click the like button. I'll give you 2 seconds to do it. More than 2 seconds. All right. Did everybody hit it? Okay. I think there's one who's waiting. Okay. Yeah. Hit the like button. That's it. Okay. And other than that, make sure you're subscribed and you've hit the bell so that when I go live again, we can make some art together. And I think when I come back, maybe we'll watch some interesting content and do a little bit of commentary during the art. And maybe we'll be able to get to a game of Risk as well. Thanks again, guys. And I will see you on the next live stream. Have a good night, and I'll see you in about an hour. Bye.